at 708-889-5600.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. The parallels between the Rededicate 250 rally on the Mall in D.C. and the Unite the Kingdom rally in the U.K. are unmistakable, aren't they? And so was the response from the neo-Marxist set. In America, it was, separation of church and state. Oh my gosh, you had the president read a biblical verse from the Oval Office, the horrors of it all. And you had members of his cabinet, the Speaker of the House, talking about America's founding as a Christian nation. Just true. But separation of church and state, Christian theocrats, Christian nationalists. And it's the same thing across the pond there. This was two-tier Keir Starmer's message in advance of the weekend rally.
Tomorrow's march in London is a reminder of what we're up against in the battle of our values. The organisers, including convicted thugs and racists, are peddling hatred and division, plain and simple. Their goal is to convince people that Britain's problems are caused by those living alongside them. But that is not the Britain that I know. This is a country built on decency, fairness and respect. A country that is at its best when people from different backgrounds come together in common purpose.
Oh, you mean like your fellow travelers who did the pro-Palestine counter-rally to the Unite the Kingdom rally and offered this as one of their featured chants?
Elsewhere.
So they've just said that they want to hang Tommy Robinson and shoot him in the neck like Charlie Kirk. It's getting very aggressive.
Yeah, quite aggressive. Normally does with those mostly peaceful individuals. A Unite the Kingdom rally goer had a different take. It didn't sound like a hate monger to me, but this is the smearing of everybody affiliated with the opposition. All Trump voters are insurrectionists, deplorables.
I'm just sick and tired of the way the country's going, how it's just being run by the government. Keir Starmer doesn't care about us, doesn't care what we want. He's absolutely ruining the country, flooding it with illegal immigration. He's not stopping it.
And it's not just the UK, it's all throughout Western Europe, things continuing to deteriorate, it would seem. For example, I found this commentary quite interesting. There's a German YouTuber who I guess is quite popular. He's got 2 million followers. He goes under the handle Radical Living, and he's leaving Germany. And what you hear from him is not dissimilar from what was said by a lot of those Unite the Kingdom rally goers over the weekend in London.
And once you get children, you also think about where you want to raise them, especially if you have a daughter. I don't think Germany is a good place to raise a daughter anymore, because women in general, they don't feel safe anymore walking down the street at night. You don't have to take it from me. There's public petitions in all major German cities. Women want vouchers for free taxi rides at night. In Berlin, they want to have women-only subway wagons. And the stories you hear in Berlin, what women have to endure in public transport, it's fucked up. It's fucked up, to be honest. You all know the reasons why it is like that. I don't have to talk about it. But the fact is, women in Germany don't feel safe anymore, for good reason. And deciding to raise a daughter in Germany is just, it's not a good thought to have,
And he went on to also talk about the decline in small things. It's very, very much like you hear people talking about L.A., the clip we played from TMZ's Harvey Levin earlier in the show. The little things. You can see the decline in the small things. You can't go to the supermarket anymore without feeling like you live in a crime-polluted society. Harvey Levin talking about a homeless person taking a boulder to his car. And what's he going to do? Have her arrested? So she turned right back out? Sue her? Judgment proof. For more on all this, pleased to be joined by Dominic Green, columnist for the Washington Examiner, contributor to the Wall Street Journal, and fellow of the Royal Historical Society. Dominic, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hello, Dan.
I just, I guess, UK narrowly before offering a more expansive view and maybe some of the parallels that I was talking about. But Keir Starmer's days are clearly numbered, right? The reporting is that he's trying to provide an orderly exit stage left.
This is what they're saying. I mean, the problem is this Labour government is so incompetent. They can't even rise getting rid of a failed prime minister. One thing you'll say for the Conservatives, at least they knew how to do it. You know, they went through them at about a rate of one a year before Starmer came in. And Labour are so hopeless, they can't even get it together. And this is like a slow motion failure. And of course, meanwhile, the economy ticks south and the illegal immigrants keep paddling across the English Channel, and you see these vast expressions of public dissatisfaction, which is what the Unite the Kingdom March is. In an ordinary situation, people wouldn't be doing this. They'd be at home. And in fact, there was, the FA Cup final, the biggest soccer match of the year, was on TV on Saturday afternoon. Nevertheless, tens of thousands of people came out and marched through central London to protest about the direction of their country. And I went down, to observe it. And I also observed the Palestine March, which was going on, a few hundred yards away. And it was like looking at two completely different cultures. The Unite the Kingdom March was not, as Keir Starmer said, a far-right or racist rally at all. It was just lots of very friendly, ordinary people, mixed crowd, celebrating what they love about their country and expressing their deep, deep concern about the drift, which has gone on for decades. And then I crossed, the park and caught the back end of the Nakba March, as they called it. And it was just a freak show, really, of weirdos and malcontents and religious fanatics and kind of demented old people with homemade signs, blue-haired students. It really was the two cultures. And as you're saying, this happens across the West now. It's not unique to England or the US. It's happening everywhere. And the vast majority of people, I think, are starting to realize the scale of the problem and are now starting to mobilize. And of course, that is what governments fear far more than a smaller group of extremists.
Well, and it's such an indictment when you hear that German YouTuber say Germany is not a safe place to raise a daughter. And of course, you, as we talked to you about before, I mean, you've done your own exposés about the importation of predators in the UK, sort of the same story.
It is. And as you were saying, it's the small things and they accumulate, a failure of the small things which make a civilized society. And they accumulate to the point that then they can be exploited in big ways. And I think that's what we've got here. And fixing it, therefore, is not a simple thing. You can adopt broken windows. You can bring back serious policing and serious sentencing. Yes, that will make a big difference to restoring some of those small things. But I think, and California is a good example, there is an embedded culture of criminality, of law breaking, a parallel society. And breaking that up is going to be extremely difficult, and it's going to require real determination, lots of money, and a willingness, to break the taboos of the multicultural societies that we built and which are now falling apart.
And I mean, the local elections just went just as you predicted, and this is the beginning at the end of Starmer, as you also told us what happened. That's happening, but what is rising to take its place? Obviously, Nigel Farage's group did very well. Is Nigel Farage and sort of the middle way, commonsensical types? Is that what is poised to fill the void?
It does look like that. I mean, they don't have midterms in Britain, so the closest you get to it is this kind of local election. And normally nobody cares because it's just about polls and where we're going to plant the bus stop and local things like that. But this time there was a huge turnout. It was like nationwide 50% voter turnout, which is not far off what you'd get for a presidential election in a slow year in the US. So this was really the equivalent of a midterm. It was a vote, how are they doing and can we change them? And as you said, Nigel Farage and Reform UK did incredibly well across the country, and Labour really collapsed. Their grassroots operation has now collapsed. Now, to get the kind of vote that Farage and Reform UK are getting, you have to be a reasonable person. You know, everybody on the left talks about, oh, it's the far right, the far right. The far right are like three men and a dog, and they have never, ever won a parliamentary seat. To get those kind of numbers, to be, well, you know, if there was a general election held tomorrow, Farage's lot would probably have a majority. To get to that, you have to be speaking out of the sensible, reasonable mainstream. People who are looking at basic questions: are my children safe on the streets? Is the school they're in? Is the hospital getting better or worse? You know, basic stuff. Are the borders secure or not? Are my taxes going up? If so, why? You know, all those questions. The English people are notoriously reasonable and sensible and perhaps too slow to anger in a way. Because, you know, if this was France, they'd have been throwing dead sheep onto the motorways long ago. But,
yeah.
You know, this is a reasonable people who have been driven to the point of exasperation. And now you're seeing them, they're mobilizing and they're willing to take a chance on an unknown with a new party. Because Mr. Farage, for all his talents as a politician, has never been he wasn't even in Parliament until the last couple of years, and he's never had a governing job. Nevertheless, people are prepared to gamble everything because it's very clear that the old system is not just broken down, it's sinking everybody with it.
You know, one of the things that we have going on in the United States, as you know, is a bit of a resurgence of religiosity, especially among young men. And of course, it's being decried as Christian nationalism, as I mentioned, and the Rededicate 250 rally was sort of pilloried by the D.C. press corps as such a thing. But I wonder. I mean, I wouldn't call it a great awakening going on in America, but for some narrow cohorts like younger men, there definitely is an increase in rediscovering or discovering for the first time our faith tradition in this country. And I wonder if there's anything like that with respect to the Church of England, or if you think if there isn't, if that's an essential ingredient to trying to restore the UK to its at least somewhat former glory.
I mean, this is a fascinating question. I mean, obviously, as we know in the US, 56, I believe, signatories of the Declaration of Independence, all of them Christians. One of them was a Catholic, and a few of them were interested in kind of religious philosophy and so on, but basically Christians of one kind or another. It's not up for debate. It just is the historical fact. In Britain, about 100 years earlier, there was the English Civil War and the Revolution. The Civil War was the work of the Puritans, who in many ways are the ancestors of the people who wrote the Declaration of Independence. And the constitution that came out of it was about keeping a lid on those passions. They used to call it enthusiasm. And so the Church of England is a very lukewarm thing, and now basically it's sort of a bunch of social workers. Mm-hmm. But the popular national sentiment, as in the US, there's this strong cultural sense of Christian values and continuity. And when it's under pressure, people then start to actually have to think, well, who are we and how should we live? And therefore, people start talking explicitly again in terms of Christianity in public life. And as I was saying, this is the origins of the republicanism of the American Revolution and the republicanism of the English Revolution in the 1640s. It is, I know we're all waiting to hear about the UFOs and the little green men from President Trump. He's going to release this stuff, he said. Well, if you do come from Mars and you land in planet Earth and you say, okay, what are these people doing? You will note the obvious fact of the historic continuity of Christianity in the public life. in Britain and in America in these various ways, and how they have a common origin and a common political culture. This is just the basics. And again, when people try and demonize these things and sort of deny their even existence, it's usually because they fear the political system. So I think it's a very good thing for people to be aware of who they are and to have a deep sense of where they come from. And yes, everything being online tends to whip things up and make them, very excited and dramatic. The basic historical drift is more like reasserting a normal view of history after decades of liberal experiments.
Dominic Green is a columnist for the Washington Examiner, contributor to the Wall Street Journal, and fellow of the Royal Historical Society. Dominic, thank you as always. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dan.
And Dominic joined us on the alphawealthgroup.com answer line.
The stories you need to know to start your day. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.